Hello, Senior Stoner fans. It's the real Senior Stoner back at you for your Puffco Peak Pro dab of the day with Filthy Brands Distillate and Cali Stripes Diamonds. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Today is Tuesday. As always, if you enjoy today's video, you know what to do. Have you ever been told that what you're talking about isn't being understood by your audience? Have you finally looked in the mirror and said to yourself, wait a second, I think I know why my expertise has been undermined by the audience? Because they didn't understand what I said. They didn't applaud. Some of them even left. Why? Because I talked about incredibly complex concepts, which were second nature to me. Well, guess what? My expertise of little value to them because I could not get it in a comfortable, persuasive way that they could understand. I kept it too complicated. So as important as delivery is, the information being passed to people has to also be important and has to be appropriate for the audience. When conveying complex information, your content needs to be right and researched. Additionally, your mode of communication is as critical as the first thing you're saying out of your mouth. You must have a connection with the audience. And when you're speaking in a complex way that they can't understand, you're not. The level of complexity of the idea you're speaking about should regulate the message's delivery. So how do we turn complicated ideas into simple concepts? You got to know your audience. You got to emphasize the one little tidbit, the thing they should pick out. You got to make use of many examples and metaphors and use simple terms. Knowing the audience is critical. Who are they? What's important to them? What's their motivation? And what is their preferred mode of communication? It is critical that you know those things. You should be pre-informed even before your meeting. So it doesn't have to be an impromptu, but with a quick assessment, you can do it that way as well. You want to emphasize that one tidbit, that one thing they should pick out. That's right. An extremely complex idea can only serve to confuse your audience without passing the information across to them. If you force the audience to understand a bunch of ideas all at once, you're going to leave them confused and possibly forgetting everything you said. So, how do you break it down? Well, first you got to find out what that one thing is you want the audience to come away with. Has to be done. When you pick the one thing, it's also best to communicate it with an intensity that sparks creativity in those people. By making use of examples and metaphors, you're going to be able to do that. Relatable examples and metaphorical things that work to your advantage, that make those people come closer. Because remember, the mode with which you elaborate your points will determine the impression you give your audience. The examples you use should be clear, concise, easily relatable, and accurate for the concept. Keep your audience thinking and imagining your idea while making use of everyday instances to push your point across. So it's very important as we move forward and learn the complex theory is a theory of relativity, because complex relates to a simple concept, and then the two can be understood. So you use simple terms. Even Albert Einstein broke things down from a complex to a relatable concept. Ensure that you don't have hanging terms that are too bogus for your listeners, and never assume your audience knows what a particular word means. So as we move forward and learn more tips on presenting the complex in a simple way, you've got to understand who you are. Be yourself. Originality is the key to a flawless presentation, as we know. And you've got to use the best method you know to convey information to the audience, making as much eye contact the best you can. Eye contact is the first rule of public speaking in body language. And break down your information. Chalk it down. Remember, you've chosen the one thing that's important. Well, now it's important to degranulate that. That's right. Degranulate it into simple terms, allowing your audience to relate and imagine what you're talking about. Avoid distracting movements. Moving around while delivering your presentation can appeal to the audience and add excitement. However, it's crucial to know how to balance your movement with what could be distraction. Embrace your energy, which is your adrenaline, and remember to compare and contrast. Ensure that what you're using is relatable and compare it to what people are familiar with. Be concise. It's a rule. Go straight to the point without jumbling the information. This will let you adjust and ensure that the people understand it well enough as you're explaining. And remember to maximize the use of analogies when trying to simplify things. You're going to have people understand you a lot better that way. Taking a complex idea or concept into a simple situation sounds complex on its own. But I think we've talked about ways that everybody can do this. Everybody can prepare better. Everybody can do more research about an audience. Everybody can have a plan ready for any audience. And before you're ready to start your presentation about a complicated thing, do some nerve calming exercises for yourself so you'll be better prepared. Breathing exercises, as well as meditating prior to the event. Remember, you got to try to have some fun and smile occasionally to ease the tension in the room. People who are trying to understand complicated things and don't get frustrated. So you've got to deal with that frustration that people might have as well. After all, you're a teacher when you're there to explain something to people. You're a teacher of whatever it is you're trying to convey. The key remains, once again, simplification. Take that information and chalk it down to its lowest common denominators so it's low-hanging fruit and easily accessible for any kind of person to understand what's going on. This has been the Real Senior Stoner, talking about complex things and how we can simplify them. Thanks for joining me today. It's a pleasure having you. Don't forget to subscribe, join the family, send a like my way, and I respond to all those lovely comments. Here we go on red for our dab of the day with our Puffco Peak Pro. Life is complicated. Maybe we can simplify it a little bit. I hope so. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Cheers, everybody.